panel discussion. I love panel discussions. And what's so cool is because different people have different issues and different things they're struggling with, then the Spirit can use the panel to address those in a way that is most helpful and most relevant. Because if you were going to talk about a condition of feeling isolated and alone and imprisoned, it might be good to talk to a prisoner and say, what is your experience of the spiritual journey? I don't necessarily want to hear from the CEO in this case. I want to hear from the prisoner. And in our case, we just have had a range of many, many experiences in applying this and working through this. And so we thought that would be the best way to do our Q&A tonight. So, we'll just open it up. And we also, looks like there's a mic here. Is that designed?
Yes, that's for the audience.
That's for the audience.
Yes, roving.
Do we need someone to... Sundari? She's full of energy. She had her trust question was answered earlier, now she's vibrating at a very high frequency. So if you have any questions, comments, or even issues or things that you're struggling with on your spiritual journey, then this is a great opportunity just to have a wide, free-ranging discussion. So if anybody has anything you'd like to ask of any of us.
Thank you. I'm Sean, I'm from Fresno. Hi guys. So I keep struggling with this thing where I feel like I get to a place of trust, and I feel like I'm about to leap off and trust, and then I engage in something in the world that makes me feel trapped, and I feel what did I do? I get in further debt, or I act out in a certain way, and then it feels like I'm just kind of trapped in the darkness more, and self-sabotaging, I guess, in a way. But yet, the debt thing, sometimes it's trying to grow more in the world and make the persona better. So that's what the world tells us to do. But then as a course student, I do that thinking, it's going to work, and then I feel oh my gosh, I just trapped myself more in darkness.
This is sounding like the Bedazzled movie, where the devil gives you 7 wishes, and then you do the wish and you go, no, not exactly what I was hoping for. Yeah. But it's beautiful too. I think we can start off with that in the sense that oftentimes we can feel trapped or imprisoned or whatever by what we do, and then it's helpful to come back to that, oh yeah, that's right. It's not behavior that imprisons me, even though that story, the ego will use the justification, saying, well, you did this and you did this, and what do you expect? You feel guilty because, well, look at the way you acted. And you should feel guilty. The ego says, if I did that, I'd feel guilty. That's the way it works. It's so associated with behavior. The only chance that the ego has to make our mind feel guilty is to point to behavior as if behavior is causative, and it is as if the behaviors cause us to feel a certain way. And even that is backwards, because it's all our thoughts, it's our beliefs and thoughts. And we don't even have direct control over our behavior. I know it seems like, we have all these weight loss programs, stop smoking, stop this, stop that, as if we have direct control, but the Course teaches us what you do comes from what you think. And you can control the direction of your thinking, but you have no actual direct control at all over the body. It's like an outpicturing, a projection that comes from the thoughts and the beliefs. And then the ego tells us, well, look what you did. You didn't call them back, or you didn't smile at them, or you didn't pay back the money, or you made a lot of money, but you spent it on the wrong things. You see how it's always focusing on the behavior. And I think when I was listening to you talk, that's the first thing that was coming to mind, was like, oh, this is a loosening of the judgments around the behaviors. Because the body is just an effect, and when we judge the body, we are giving causation to those behaviors. That just came to me.
Yeah, and I'm just fascinated at how... Do I need to turn it on?
No, you're on.
And how well people observe themselves. Also in the other session we had, when someone described their issue, like, oh wow, what a great way to be able to observe your pattern, and describe it and like that. And I love David's answer, because we are called to not make differences or not to judge what anything means. So to just continue to do this mind training practice, like you probably don't see how far you've come, That's what comes to me.
I think too, it's like we're so focused on these categories, like around the behaviors. What do I do for a living, or the way we spend money? It's like we can be very critical, so critical around behaviors. Like that inner critic is just going on and on, revving on and on about certain behaviors and the shoulds. And the shoulds and oughtos, like, well, I see this over here, and that looks to me like they're happy over there, and they're happy over there, and I'm not happy. And here's the behaviors, and that accounts for it right there. And we make these false associations with the behaviors, whereas what we do comes from what we think. And Jesus says in the Course, it is with your thoughts alone that we must work. Jesus is not big on behavior. He will still use those symbols in the workbook, like sit quietly, or he'll still address you as if you've got a body. He's not trying to jump right over all of that, to keep it practical. But there's not the morality that most of us have grown up with, and the morality and the ethics that are so thick, where there's such a pressure, like we feel penned in. And it reminds me, many years ago, Spike Lee did a movie called Do the Right Thing. And there's pressure with trying to live up to a standard. And is it enough? Are we a good enough parent? Are we a good enough worker? Are we a good enough citizen? There's pressure with that comparison. And really it's like we're being asked to just look at the thoughts and then ask internally, do these thoughts serve me? Are they serving me? And that's how we get out of that inner predicament. I'm sure we've all had experiences too around that. Is yours, when you're talking tonight, is it around more the thing of lack, like you were saying, like, is it around the thing of money or job, career? So maybe you can share a little bit more, like, how does it feel? Is there like a pressure, or do you feel yourself criticizing yourself around certain things?
Yes. The job I am in now, I always feel like I'm too slow. And so I'm working hard on myself all day long. And so I'm always trying to look for a better job. But because of that belief, I never think I'm going to be good at any other job, if I'm going to be too slow. And so then I invest invest in like self-improvement programs, which I think are going to make me better somehow. And I just feel like I kind of get trapped. Like then I go back to, I get in this high anxiety place of like, I don't know how to do this. So I go back and read the course and read the lessons and read other spiritual texts just to feel peaceful and like calm and, you know, get the message like I'm valuing the wrong things, but then I spent all this money on the self-improvement course. So then I ended up feeling like I was hiding in my room because I don't know what to do, because I feel inadequate. Yeah, I feel inadequate in the world.
That's good to know, because that way you can start, it gives you a bit of an inroad, like, of what my issue is. If I'm inadequate, or I'm judging myself as slow, or there's a pressure to improve, or to speed up in some way, and it feels like it's like, then you want to isolate or hide, then that's good. You start to get an inroad into the issue. I would say too, it's just this core issue of like lack that's in there, and there's an unworthiness tied in very strongly with that lack. And so the way the Spirit operates would be that's where the trust comes in, to be open to miracles, to experiences that would give you a sense of joy and a sense of intrinsic joy and happiness that really comes from just following what's given.
Thank you for listening to this edition of Awakening to True Happiness with modern-day mystic David Hoffmeister. You can access more of David's teachings by visiting his website at davidhoffmeister.com. Tune in to David again next week on Evolutionary Voices for the Quantum Age, heard Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern on the Dream Vision 7 radio network.